The great hall of the Galactic Consortium stretched upward like a cathedral made of starlight. 12 species had built this place together over 11,000 years. They called themselves the Elder Races, and they believed they owned the galaxy. Ambassador walked across the polished floor with her head held high. Her footsteps echoed in the massive chamber. Behind her walked her young aide and engineer. His hands were shaking, but hers were steady. The council sat in a half-circle before them. 12 chairs for 12 species, though with their 4 arms and gray skin, though with their crystal bones that glowed softly in the dim light, though with their delicate wings folded against their backs, though with their thick armor plates and warrior scars, and 8 more species, each one ancient, each one powerful, each one looking at the 2 humans like they were insects that had wandered into a palace. High Arbiter of the rose from his chair. He was old even by his species' standards, with deep lines carved into his gray face. When he spoke, his voice filled the hall without effort. "Humanity," he began, "you have been among us for 300 years. In that time you have spread to over 2,000 worlds. You have taken jobs in every sector of our society. You have made yourselves useful in ways both large and small." Waited, she knew that word useful was not a compliment. "But you have also disrupted the natural order of things," continued. "You breed too quickly, you adapt to environments that should kill you, you ask questions that should not be asked, you fix problems that are not your concern, you have made yourselves indispensable." "Is being helpful a crime?" asked calmly. His 4 eyes narrowed. "It is unseemly. Each species in this consortium has its role, the govern, the trade, the create art, the fight. This is the natural order unchanged for, but humans do everything. You fill every gap. You take every unwanted task. You make other species depend on you, and dependency is weakness." "We only want to contribute," said. "You exist too loudly," replied. "You are a disruption, a disturbance, and so, by unanimous vote of this council, humanity is hereby expelled from consortium space." The words hung in the air like poison. Stepped forward, his face red with anger. "You cannot do this. We have rights under the consortium charter. We have." Placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Enough." "But Ambassador." "Enough." Fell silent, but his fists remained clenched at his sides. Turned back to face the council. 12 species, 12 ancient civilizations, all of them united in their desire to see humanity gone. She had known this day was coming for years. She had prepared for it in ways the council could never imagine. "How long do we have?" she asked. 90 cycles, answered. "You will remove all human presence from consortium territories, every worker, every settler, every child. You will take only what belongs to you. You will leave peacefully, or you will be removed by force." Bowed her head, "As you wish." The council members exchanged satisfied looks. They had expected arguments, protests, maybe even threats. The humans' quiet acceptance confused them, but they did not question it. They were too pleased with themselves to notice the small smile that crossed his face. The news spread across consortium space within hours. On every world, in every station, humans received the order to leave. Most of them had already heard rumors. Many had already begun packing. On the human maintenance workers gathered their tools and loaded them onto transport ships. They had spent 2 centuries keeping the great atmospheric processors running, the machines that regulated the planet's climate and kept billions of alive. They left without complaint, taking their manuals, their notes, their accumulated knowledge with them. On the trading hub of Nexus Prime, human engineers shut down their workstations and cleared out their quarters. They had designed and maintained the station's power grid, its water recycling systems, its communication networks. They took their blueprints and their expertise with them. On agricultural worlds, human farmers harvested one last crop and then left the fields to whoever would work them next. On mining colonies, human technicians serviced the equipment one final time and then packed their bags. On military bases, human mechanics finished their repairs and said quiet goodbyes to ships they would never see again. Everywhere the pattern was the same. Humans worked until the last possible moment, then left quietly and completely. They took nothing that did not belong to them. They damaged nothing. They sabotaged nothing. They simply left. Found standing at a viewport on their transport ship, watching the consortium capital shrink in the distance. The great hall where they had received their sentence was just a speck of light now, lost among millions of other specks. "They will regret this," said bitterly. Yes, agreed. We should have fought, we should have. Fighting would have proven them right, interrupted gently. They called us disruptive, dangerous. If we had resisted, we would have become exactly what they accused us of being. So we just accepted. We let them throw us away like garbage. Turned to face him. Her eyes were calm, but there was something behind that calm, something patient, something old. Do you know why they really expelled us? Because they hate us. No, they don't hate us, they don't even see us, that's the problem. She turned back to the viewport. For 300 years, humans have done the work no one else wanted to do. We maintained their machines. We fixed their systems. We filled every gap, solved every problem, handled every crisis. And they never noticed. We were invisible to them, background noise, furniture. Then why expel us at all? Because we made them uncomfortable. Not because of what we did, but because of what we represented. We showed them that their perfect, specialized society had holes in it, holes that only generalists like us could fill. And rather than admit that they needed us, they decided to get rid of us. Was quiet for a long moment. What happens now? Smiled, it was not a happy smile. Now we wait. We build our own civilization out in the empty spaces they consider worthless, and we watch. Watch what? Watch them discover what happens when you remove the invisible workers who kept everything running. Watch them learn the difference between specialized and helpless. Watch them finally notice the silence where humans used to be. She placed a hand on the viewport, her palm pressed against the cold glass. They forced us out because we existed too loudly, but they're about to learn something important. They're about to learn that the loudest sound in the universe is the sound of something that should be working, and isn't. The transport ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving consortium space behind. 8 billion humans scattered across 1,000 ships, heading toward the unknown edges of the galaxy. Behind them, the consortium celebrated their departure. They had no idea what was coming. 30 cycles had passed since the humans left. Although life continued as normal, the streets were clean, the air was fresh, the great cities hummed with activity, everything was fine. Until it wasn't. Chief Engineer stood in the control room of Atmospheric Processor 7, staring at warning lights that should not have been flashing. The machine was old, older than anyone could remember. It had been built 8,000 years ago by species that no longer existed, and it had been running perfectly ever since. Now it was making a sound, a grinding, wheezing, dying sound that makes blood run cold. "What is wrong with it?" he demanded. His assistant, a young named, looked helpless. "We don't know, Chief. The readings don't match anything in our databases." Then check the maintenance logs. See what the previous engineers did when this happened before. "I did, Chief. There are no logs." "What do you mean there are no logs?" His voice was small. "The humans maintained this system, Chief, for 200 years. They took their documentation with them when they left." Felt something cold settle in his stomach. Then contact the engineers, or someone must know how this machine works. I contacted everyone. The specialize in trading systems, the specialize in art, the specialize in weapons. No one specializes in atmospheric processors. Then who maintained this thing before the humans? Checked her records, the chief. Contact them. I can't, they've been extinct for 600 years. The grinding sound grew louder. On the displays, temperature readings began to climb. Somewhere deep in the machine's ancient guts, something was breaking, something important. "Can we shut it down?" asked. "Repair it manually." "If we shut it down, the atmospheric balance for the entire eastern continent will collapse within 3 days. 50 million people will need to evacuate." Stared at the dying machine. For 8,000 years it had worked perfectly. For 200 of those years, humans had maintained it. He had never asked them how. He had never even learned their names. They were just workers, background noise, invisible. Now they were gone, and he had no idea how to save his world. Far across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out everywhere. On Nexus Prime, the great trading hub of the station administrator watched in horror as half her station went dark. Power grid failures cascaded through sector after sector, shutting down life support, communication systems, and gravity generators. "What happened?" she screamed at her engineers. "A relay failed," they told her, "in the fusion distribution network." Then fix it. We don't know how. The humans built this network. They modified it over the years. These components aren't even in our technical databases. Your species invented fusion technology 10,000 years ago. We invented the theory, her chief engineer replied quietly. The humans built the implementation, and they customized it extensively. We don't even know what half these parts are called. Looked at the darkened sections of her station. Thousands of people lived there. Without life support, they had maybe 6 hours. Can you reverse engineer it? She asked desperately. That would take years. We don't have years, we have hours. The engineer had no answer. On the agricultural world of 7, the colonists gathered in their beautiful crystal towers and watched their crops rot in the fields. The automated harvesting systems had gone offline. Without human technicians to repair them, the machines sat useless, their error codes blinking in languages no one understood. We must harvest manually, the colony leader announced. They looked at each other in confusion. Their species had evolved for art and philosophy. Their delicate hands could create sculptures of breathtaking beauty. Their minds could compose symphonies that made other species weep. But their bodies were fragile. Their claws were meant for precision work, not hard labor. How do we harvest manually? Someone asked. No one knew. No one had ever needed to know. The humans had always done it. The crops rotted. They began to starve. On the military station of Iron Fist, Admiral stood on his command bridge and tried to understand why his fleet would not move. 12 warships, the pride of the warrior caste, sat dead in their docks. Their jump drives had failed simultaneously, as if by some coordinated curse. The maintenance crews, growled. Where are the maintenance crews? They were human, Admiral. All of them. All of them, the warrior code forbids mechanical labor. It is beneath our honor. Slammed his armored fist against the console. Then who maintained these ships before the humans? The provided technicians, Admiral, but they stopped when the humans arrived. They said the humans were better at it. Better at it? The words burned in his mind. Humans were soft, weak. They had no armor, no claws, no natural weapons, and yet somehow they had made themselves essential to the most powerful military in the galaxy. Now that military sat helpless, trapped by machines it could not fix. The first emergency session of the Consortium Council was held on Cycle 35. Representatives from all 12 species gathered in the Great Hall, their faces drawn with worry. The seat where Ambassador had once stood was empty now, a reminder of what they had done. The situation is critical, High Arbiter announced. Multiple worlds are reporting infrastructure failures. Our preliminary assessment suggests that over 60% of consortium systems were maintained primarily by human workers. 60%, the representative's crystal bones flickered with alarm. That's impossible. Humans were only 3% of the population. 3% of the population doing 60% of the maintenance, replied grimly. They worked in every sector, they filled every gap, and we never documented what they did or how they did it. Then bring them back, the Admiral demanded. Offer them payment, offer them territory, offer them whatever they want. We've tried, we've sent messages to every known human fleet. They do not respond. The council fell silent. Outside the Great Hall, the capital city continued its normal routine, but everyone in that room knew the truth. The normal routine was running on borrowed time. Systems were failing, knowledge was lost, and the people who could have fixed everything were gone. Perhaps, the representative said quietly, we should not have expelled them. It was the first time anyone had said it out loud. The words hung in the air like an accusation. That discussion is pointless, said firmly. What's done is done, we must find solutions ourselves. But even as he spoke, he knew the truth. Solutions required knowledge. Knowledge required documentation. Documentation required the people who had created it. The humans had taken everything with them, and they had left absolutely nothing behind. In the empty silence of the council chamber, finally understood what Ambassador had meant when she smiled at their verdict. She had known all along what would happen. And she had let them do it anyway. The grinding sound continued. Somewhere in the distance, something else began to fail. 60 cycles after the expulsion, the consortium was dying. Counselor sat in the command center of the human exile fleet, reading the latest reports from Consortium Space. Around her, holographic displays showed a galaxy on fire, not with weapons but with failure, system after system collapsing, world after world going dark. "The has evacuated 3 more cities," her aide reported. "Their atmospheric processors are down to 40% function. Another month and the eastern continent will be uninhabitable." Nodded slowly. "What about Nexus Prime?" "Critical, they've lost 70% of their power grid. Water recycling failed last week. They're shipping in emergency supplies from other systems, but the supply ships are having their own problems. Jump drive failures are up 300% across the fleet. Their military is completely paralyzed. 12 battle groups stuck in dock. Admiral reportedly tried to execute his entire engineering staff for incompetence before someone reminded him that they were all dead." "Dead?" "They killed themselves, Counselor. The shame of being unable to fix the ships was too much for them." Closed her eyes. This was not what she had wanted. She had wanted the Consortium to suffer, yes, to regret their decision, to understand what they had lost. But this was something else. This was collapse. "Show me the Cascade map," she ordered. The display changed to show a web of interconnected systems spanning thousands of light years. Red dots marked failures. Orange dots marked systems under stress. Green dots marked functioning systems. There were very few green dots left. "The problem is specialization," explained. "Each consortium species evolved to do one thing perfectly: the govern, the trade, the create, the fight, but none of them can do anything else. They never needed to. For millions of years, they survived because each species did its part." "And then humans arrived," said quietly. "And then humans arrived. We did everything they couldn't. We maintained their machines. We repaired their systems. We filled every gap in their perfect, specialized society. And because we did it so quietly, so efficiently, so invisibly, they never realized how much they depended on us. Until we left. Until we left. And now the gaps are showing. Every species is trying to do jobs they were never designed for. They are trying to repair machines. They are trying to farm. They are trying to fix ships. They're all failing because they spent millions of years not needing to learn these skills." Stared at the Cascade map. Red dots spreading like a disease. Orange dots turning red. Green dots turning orange. A civilization of trillions collapsing because no one knew how to fix a broken pipe. "We could help them," she said. Looked at her in surprise. "Counselor. We could go back, offer our services, stop this cascade before it destroys everything. After what they did to us, they called us vermin, they expelled us like criminals, they—" "I know what they did," his voice was sharp. "I was there, I stood beside when pronounced our sentence, I watched them celebrate when we left, I know." "Then why would you even consider helping them?" Was quiet for a long moment. On the display, another dot turned red. Another system failed. Another world slipped closer to catastrophe. "Because we're not like them," she finally said. "That's the whole point, isn't it? They expelled us because we were different, because we didn't fit into their perfect categories, because we did things they couldn't understand. If we refuse to help now, if we let them die out of spite, then we become exactly what they accused us of being: disruptive, dangerous, selfish." "They would have let us die," pointed out. "Yes, they would have, but we're not them. We never were." The first transmission arrived on cycle 63. Administrator of Nexus Prime, her voice desperate and broken. "This is a priority message to any human vessel. We are experiencing critical failures across all systems. We request technical assistance. We can offer favorable trade terms, payment in any currency, territorial concessions, anything, please. We have children on this station. They're going to die." Listened to the message 3 times, then she deleted it. More messages followed. The government begging for atmospheric engineers, the colony on 7 pleading for agricultural technicians, the military demanding, not asking, demanding mechanical support. Deleted them all. "I thought you wanted to help them," said confused. "I do, but not yet. People are dying, Counselor." "I know," his face was hard. "But if we go back now, nothing will change. They'll use us to fix their problems, and then they'll expel us again the moment things stabilize. They need to understand something first. They need to truly understand what they did." "Understand what?" Pulled up the Cascade map again. The red had spread even further. Whole sectors were dark now. They called us an infestation, a pest to be removed. They thought they were cleaning their house when they expelled us. She pointed at the spreading failure. They need to understand that we were never the infestation. We were the immune system. We were the thing keeping them healthy, and they just cut it out. On the High Arbiter sat in his private chambers and watched his planet die. The atmospheric processors had failed completely now. Toxic gases were building in the lower atmosphere. Evacuation ships filled the sky, carrying refugees to anywhere that would take them. His aide entered with another report, did not look at it. "How many dead?" he asked. 47 million Arbiter so far. 47 million. 47 million dead because of machines no one knew how to fix. Machines that humans had maintained for 2 centuries without complaint, without recognition, without thanks. "We never learned their names," said quietly. "Arbiter." "The human workers, the ones who maintained the processors. They worked on our world for 200 years. They kept billions of us alive, and we never learned their names. We never asked about their families. We never thanked them. We treated them like furniture, like tools. And when we decided we didn't want them anymore, we threw them away." The aide said nothing. There was nothing to say. "I thought we were so superior," continued. 11,000 years of civilization, the great consortium, the elder races of the galaxy, and it turns out we couldn't survive 100 days without the species we despised. He looked out the window at the evacuation ships. "We deserve this," he whispered, "every bit of it." Somewhere in the distance, another machine failed. Another system went dark. Another piece of the consortium crumbled. And in the empty spaces at the edge of the galaxy, 8 billion humans watched and waited. Their time was coming. 90 cycles after the expulsion, the Galactic Consortium fell apart in a single night. It began with an accusation. Admiral of the stood in the council chamber, his armored body shaking with rage, and pointed at High Arbiter. "You did this," roared. "You planned this from the beginning. You convinced us to expel the humans because you knew it would cripple our fleet. You wanted to weaken the—" Rose from his chair, his 4 arms spread in denial. "That is absurd. The expulsion was a unanimous decision. Every species voted." "Lies, you manipulated us. You knew the humans maintained our ships. You knew we would be helpless without them. This was always your plan." "Admiral, you must listen to reason. They are suffering as much as anyone. Ours is dying. Why would we?" "Prove it. Show us your communications from before the expulsion. Show us you didn't plot this." Hesitated. It was just a moment, just a flicker of uncertainty, but saw it. "You can't show us," the Admiral said slowly. "Why can't you show us?" "The archives," admitted quietly. "They were stored on servers maintained by human technicians. The servers failed weeks ago. Centuries of diplomatic records were lost." Silence fell over the council chamber, then began to laugh. It was not a happy sound. "You don't even have records anymore. You can't prove your innocence because humans maintained your archives and you expelled them." He turned to the other representatives. "How convenient. They can claim anything now. They can deny any plot, any scheme, any conspiracy, and we have no way to prove otherwise." "This is paranoid thinking," the representative protested. "We are allies. We have been allies for 11,000 years. Have we?" Pointed at the dying displays, the flickering lights, the failing systems. "Look around you. Everything is falling apart, and somehow they are the ones controlling what remains of the government. They're the ones deciding who gets resources, who gets evacuation priority, who lives and who dies. That is simply because we are the governing species. It has always been. It has always been your way of controlling us," finished. "No more. They refuse to recognize authority. From this moment we consider ourselves at war." The council erupted into chaos. Within hours, the first shots were fired. Warships, the few that could still move, attacked a supply convoy. They called for help from the other species. Some responded. Others didn't. Old alliances crumbled. Ancient grudges resurfaced. Millions of years of cooperation dissolved in a single night of fear and anger and blame. They declared independence before dawn. Their crystal ships fled toward the outer systems, seeking safety away from the madness. The followed, their beautiful abandoned to whatever fate awaited it. One by one, the other species turned on each other or fled into the darkness. High Arbiter watched from his chamber as the capital city burned. Troops fought guards in the streets below. Plasma fire lit the sky in flashes of blue and orange. 11,000 years of civilization ending in flames. His aide rushed in, breathing hard. "Arbiter, we've received a transmission from the humans." For one moment, hope flickered in Spore eyes. "They've come back. They will help us." The aide's expression killed that hope. "No, Arbiter, it's a recording, just a recording." The holographic display activated. Ambassador appeared, looking exactly as she had 90 cycles ago when she had accepted their verdict. "High Arbiter, members of the Consortium Council. By now, you have likely begun to understand the consequences of your decision." Leaned forward, desperate to hear what came next. "I want you to know that this was never our plan. We did not sabotage anything. We did not leave traps or hidden failures. We simply left. Completely, thoroughly, as you demanded." Her image flickered slightly and saw something in her eyes. Not hatred, not satisfaction, something sadder than that. "You see, the problem was never that humans were too adaptable. It was never that we spread too fast or asked too many questions. The problem was that you never noticed what we actually did. For 300 years, we maintained your worlds. We kept your systems running. We filled every gap that your specialized societies couldn't fill. Not because you forced us to, because that is what humans do. We see broken things and we fix them. We see needs and we fill them. It's not a strategy. It's not a weakness. It's simply who we are." Paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was gentle. "You told us we existed too loudly, but you never heard us at all. You never once asked a human worker what they did all day. You never thanked a human engineer or a human farmer or a human mechanic. We were invisible to you, background noise. And now that we are gone, you are finally hearing the silence." The recording ended. Sat in the flickering light of his dying world and felt the truth of her words settle into his bones. Outside, the war continued. Former allies killed each other in the streets. Ships crashed into buildings. Fires spread unchecked because no one knew how to stop them. The firefighting systems had been maintained by humans too. "Arbiter," his aide said quietly, "what do we do?" Did not answer. What was there to say? They had expelled the one species that could have saved them. They had thrown away the workers who kept everything running, and now they were paying the price. He thought about the human workers he had seen over the years. The small figures in gray uniforms, always busy, always fixing something. He had walked past them 1,000 times without ever looking at their faces. They had been beneath his notice, beneath everyone's notice. And yet they had held the entire consortium together. "We were fools," whispered. "All of us such complete fools." His aide looked at him with fear in her eyes. "Is there no hope, Arbiter? Is this truly the end?" Looked out at the burning city, the shattered civilization, the dying world. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "perhaps the humans will forgive us. Perhaps they will come back." Would they, after everything we did to them? Remembered sighs in the recording, not hatred, not triumph, sadness. "I don't know," he admitted. "I truly don't know." But somewhere deep in his heart, he found himself hopping that the humans were different, hopping that they would not be like the consortium, holding grudges and seeking revenge, hopping that the species they had despised and expelled would somehow find it in themselves to save the ones who had wronged them. It was a small hope, probably a foolish one. But in the ruins of everything he had known, it was the only hope had left. The fires burned on through the night, and somewhere in the distant darkness, the human fleet watched and waited. Their decision would come soon. 100 cycles after the expulsion, the human fleet appeared at the edge of what had once been consortium space. 1,200 ships emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. They carried 8 billion humans, refugees who had built a thriving civilization in the empty spaces while their former masters tore themselves apart. Their ships were new, designed and built by human hands. Their technology was advanced, developed by human minds working without the restrictions of consortium rules. They had not just survived their exile, they had flourished. Counselor stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Second Chance, and watched the scanners fill with distress signals. Thousands of them, millions. Every surviving settlement in consortium space was crying out for help. "First surrender came in at dawn," reported. "The provisional government, they're offering unconditional terms." Unconditional. Complete, they're offering territory, resources, political authority. They'll give us anything we want. All they ask is that we help them survive. And the others? Coming in every few minutes. Even the counselor, Admiral sent a personal message. He apologized. A warrior apologized. Closed her eyes. She had imagined this moment many times over the past 100 cycles. She had imagined feeling triumph, satisfaction, vindication. Instead, she felt only heaviness. How many died? She asked. Hesitated. Our estimates suggest approximately 3 billion casualties, from system failures, starvation, disease, and the wars that followed. 3 billion? 3 billion thinking beings, dead because of pride and prejudice and blindness. Dead because the consortium had valued specialization over adaptation. Dead because they had looked at humans and seen pests instead of partners. We should let them suffer, said quietly. They deserve it, after everything they did. They do deserve it, agreed, but that's not the question. Then what is the question? Turned to face her young aide, was barely 30 years old. She had been born in exile, raised on stories of her parents had been forced to leave. She had every reason to hate the consortium. The question, said slowly, is what kind of species do we want to be? Do we want to be like them, holding grudges, seeking revenge, letting people die because they wronged us? Or do we want to be something different? We could be different and still not help them. We could just leave them alone, let them rebuild by themselves. They can't rebuild by themselves. That's the whole point. They never could. Their society was built on specialization. Each species doing one thing, without someone to fill the gaps, they'll just keep falling apart, and millions more will die. Was quiet for a long moment, then she spoke again, her voice smaller. There are children on those worlds, aren't there? Yes, children who never voted to expel us, children who were born after we left, children who have no idea why their world is dying, only that it is. And old people who voted against the expulsion, and dissidents who tried to stop it. Yes, and even the ones who cheered when we left, they're still people. Yes, they are. Looked at the distress signals filling the scanner. Thousands of lights, each one representing a community in crisis. Mothers and fathers trying to protect their families. Workers trying to keep failing systems alive for one more day. Leaders making impossible choices about who would eat and who would starve. I still hate them, she admitted, for what they did to my parents, for what they did to all of us. I know I hate them too sometimes, but hatred is heavy, it weighs you down, it turns you into something you don't want to be. Placed a hand on her aide's shoulder. The consortium expelled us because we were different, because we didn't fit their categories. If we let hatred turn us into mirror images of them, then they win. They were right about us all along. So we forgive them, just like that. Not just like that. Forgiveness takes time. It takes work. It takes seeing real change. But we can choose to help while we're still working on forgiveness. We can choose to save lives even while we're still angry about the lives that were lost. Turned back to the viewport. The stars of consortium space glittered before her, each one representing worlds that were dying. Besides, she added, this is what humans do. We see broken things and we fix them. We see people in need and we help them. Not because they deserve it, because they need it, because we can. That's who we are, that's who we've always been. She activated the fleet-wide communication channel. 1,200 ships listened as she spoke. This is counselor to all vessels. 100 cycles ago, we were expelled from this space. We were told we existed too loudly. We were called vermin, pests, and infestation to be removed. We left peacefully as they demanded. We built a new home in the darkness they thought was worthless, and now they are calling for our help. She paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. We could refuse, we could let them die. Many of you would say they deserve it, and maybe they do. But that's not who we are. We never were the monsters they imagined. We were the workers, the fixers, the ones who kept the lights on. And right now, 3 billion people are dead and billions more are dying because the lights went out. I'm asking you to help me turn them back on. Not for revenge, not for power, not even for forgiveness. Just because there are people who need us and we can help. That's reason enough. The responses came flooding in. Ship after ship, crew after crew volunteering for the mission. Engineers ready to repair failing systems. Doctors ready to treat the sick and wounded. Farmers ready to restart dying agriculture. Teachers, builders, mechanics, technicians. Every kind of worker that the consortium had expelled and ignored and forgotten. They were all ready to go back. Smiled for the first time in a long while. All ships set course for Prime. We have work to do. The fleet moved forward into consortium space. On every world they reached, they found chaos and despair. And on every world they rolled up their sleeves and started fixing things. They repaired atmospheric processors and power grids. They restarted agricultural systems and water recycling plants. They trained local workers in skills that had been forgotten for generations. They worked alongside former enemies, teaching them how to maintain the machines that kept them alive. It was not easy. There was anger on both sides. There were confrontations, arguments, bitter words spoken in dark moments. Some humans could not forgive. Some consortium members could not accept help from the species they had wronged. The path forward was rocky and uncertain. But slowly, gradually, things began to heal. 500 years later, the restored Galactic Union erected a monument on Prime. It stood at the exact spot where Ambassador had received humanity's sentence of expulsion. The monument showed a simple human figure, neither heroic nor humble, just standing with tools in hand. Around it, the symbols of all the species in the new union formed a circle of equals. The inscription read, "They kept our lights on, they fixed what we broke. They came back when we needed them. They are not our servants, they are not our lessers, they are human, and we will never forget again." At the dedication ceremony, a young child asked her parent why the humans had come back after being treated so badly. The parent had no answer, but a nearby human worker overheard the question. He was there to check the monument's lighting systems, making sure everything worked properly. He knelt down to the child's level and smiled. "Because you needed help," said simply, "and helping is what we do." The child looked at him with wide eyes. "But we were mean to you." "Yes, you were. Why did you help anyway?" Thought about it for a moment. He thought about the stories his grandmother had told him about the expulsion. He thought about the anger he had felt as a young man, reading about the billions who had died. He thought about the long, slow process of healing that had brought them to this moment. "Because being mean to someone who was mean to you just makes more meanness," he finally said. "And there was already enough of that in the galaxy. We decided to try something different." "What?" "Kindness, even when it was hard. Even when we didn't want to, we just kept being kind until things got better." The child tilted her head. Did it work? Looked around at the crowd gathered for the ceremony, and humans standing together, and all the others united in a way that would have been unthinkable 500 years ago. "Yeah," he said softly, "I think it did." He patted her gently on the head, then stood and went back to work. Behind him, the monument's lights came on, glowing warm against the darkening sky. A human engineer had installed those lights. A human technician would maintain them, and when they eventually failed, a human worker would be there to fix them. That was just what humans did. And the galaxy, finally, had learned to appreciate it.